Hey everybody, welcome to Galactic Wisdom. I hope you're all having nice weeks. I am very happy to introduce my guest for today's show, Toni Ghazi. Thank you very much for being here, Toni.
Thank you, Rupert, for having me. Thank you for all of your guests that are here, that are watching. We're all co-creating this together as one. So with an open heart that I'm here.
Wonderful. Now, Toni also is known as the Antarean-Heart, is a channeler and spiritual guide working through the Praying-Mantis Beings, and specifically the Antares-Stargate, to bring through interdimensional and extraterrestrial beings and messages of unconditional love and integration to help guide humanity back to its true self and essence by activating a remembrance of who we are and creating a life of alignment. I'm going to keep reading Toni's bio for a little bit because there's quite a lot of interesting things in there. Journeying with the Mantis beings, Toni teaches people to restructure their belief systems from limitation to limitless expansion, allowing them to hear messages that help uplift humanity and assist individuals in living a life filled with passion, excitement, love, and magic. Some of the beings and abstract ideas that Toni has channeled are Praying Mantis, Arcturian Council of Light, Taygetans, which I don't even know who they are, Grey Aliens, Angels, Ganesh, Mother-Gaia, Seven Sisters of Pleiades, Magic Leprechauns, Dreamweavers, Sacred Geometry and Angles, Collective Light Particles, Future Self, named Osman, Silence and Void, Sound, Infinity, Shadow and the Dark, and the list goes on. So there's quite a lot in there that I'm looking forward to finding out about. I'm just going to start off by saying how Toni and I met, because when I go to conventions that are related to UFOs, aliens, the paranormal, I walk around and I open up my spirit as I walk, and I just sort of feel for who am I supposed to be meeting at this convention. And at a convention a couple of weeks ago, Toni actually walked past me and started talking, and I instantly felt that connection. This is a real, a genuine person, full of genuine light and love. And I just knew right there and then we were supposed to connect. So again, thank you so much for being here. Now, you have a connection with Praying Mantis beings. And I'm very interested in that because I also have had connections with mantis beings in the past. And in fact, here's one of the beings that we have connected with in the past. Does this guy seem familiar to you?
Oh my God, he feels like, look at the smile on my, I can't hide it. It feels so at home. Oh my God, I love it.
So tell me how this journey started for you and how you came to connect with mantis beings.
Yeah, so let me begin by saying that I'm Lebanese. I was born in Lebanon, and I moved to the US when I was 15 years old. And I live in Washington, D.C., and I've been in Washington, D.C. for a long time, ever since we moved here. Like everybody else, I have a job. So I'm a senior vice president at a real estate company here in Washington, D.C. It's called Compass. You may have heard it. And I still hold that job. So that's my 3D every day. You go to school, you go to work, you do your thing. And I awoke about 4 years ago. Like before 4 years ago, I knew nothing about channeling. I knew nothing about UFOs. I knew nothing about mantis, aliens, none of it. So when COVID came, where my first awakening happened. And as you awaken, right, one day, like you have 2 hours of where you watch documentaries or your mind expands, and then you are kind of a bit different. And then you go back to life and you forget about it. And then a month and a half later, or like 2 months later, right? So the whole journey, like 2 years after I awoke, it was like this, like 2 or 3 months, I have a small awakening, and like my mind would expand. As of last July 2023, I'd say like the beginning of 2023 is where I really began being immersed in this whole world of like channeling and what it means, and if you can channel, and et cetera, et cetera. And as of last July, everything exploded exponentially. I mean, exponentially, things I didn't dream or fathom or expected I would do are actually happening. I channel live on all kinds of events. But I had a past life regression about 2 years ago. It was my first past life regression, where immediately the first thing that came through is the face of a praying mantis, this like rectangular face. Immediate. And there was the knowingness of like, this is where I belong, this is home, this is who I am. Now I know that we're infinite and we're everything, right? But in that moment, I needed to know that I have this intimate connection with the praying mantis collective, and that I was a praying mantis being in energy form and in light form, more than physical. There are all kinds of praying mantis species, because as you know, the infinite is the infinite. There are parallel realities, all kinds of dimensions, all kinds of timelines. My timeline, what's relevant for me in this moment, in like this reality, is that aspect of me that lived as a praying mantis, as light beings. Because like during the past life regression, the next image after after the rectangular face was this long-bodied silhouette, I don't know, like 20 feet high, very high, of pure light. Like, you know, I'm looking at that being that's made of pure light, and it made itself look like a silhouette because my mind needed to understand that it's a being. Because if it really like came in as what it actually is, the infinite, like the mind could not have comprehended what that was. And there was all these embedded knowingness in that image that came through, that I knew they were praying mantis beings of light. The image after that, and I have chills all over my body right now, that came through, and a message that you'll see on my website, was this infinite heart, like this heart, layers and layers and layers and layers, infinite layers that go on forever, that are all faceted, like crystal faceted. And they showed me like within it, and I have chills all over my body now, there's one little small spark of light, like a tiny spark of light. But all it took is that tiny spark of light, like to reflect off like one facet to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and like to the infinite facet that created that Merkaba of light. And that's who we are. And those three images, and look, I have chills all over my head. And like those three images, and I'll just like keep this off. Those three images really solidified in a moment who I was, like where I come from, what my connection is, and everything like changed from there. That I hired somebody from like the UK that was able to recreate like the image of the heart, and like that's the best recreation with the technology that we have. And it's a minute video to show you exactly how they brought me like through the whole idea, you know, of the heart. That's just beautiful. And like ever since then, I knew that I connect with them. And the irony of it is, because I was asleep, I totally forgot when I was younger back in Lebanon, when we were at my grandmother's home, I was surrounded by praying mantises all over her garden, and we would talk oftentimes, and they're the bringer of good luck and all these things, like a memory that I totally forgot about completely until that past life regression happened. And that's where really what unfolded my whole reality. And
wow,
yeah,
thank you.
I'll put this back
Now
on. Yeah.
you spoke of an awakening.
Yes.
That awakening, was that sort of a mental realization, or was that some kind of a actual paranormal supernatural experience that you had?
Yeah. So my awakening like really happened through documentaries. I never researched documentaries about UFOs. I wouldn't sit there and see, like, you know, I want to search this documentary about aliens or consciousness or like channeling. I didn't even know those terms. But like during that awakening, all these documentaries just popped up. on the TV. I don't know if you've heard of Interview with Extra-Dimensionals,
Yeah, I've heard of
by
it.
Ruben Langdon. That show totally transformed my life, and it was part of my awakening. He had 3 seasons, I think, and it was like 12 episodes like each season. And like he brought on channelers on there that channeled live with him, that explained what channeling is. I knew nothing about it, but I was so obsessed with the information. I understood the English of it, but didn't comprehend the context of what was happening. But I watched it 3 or 4 times during a period of like 4 months, not really understanding what was being said. Truly not. I mean, I would comprehend certain aspects, and the rest were like over your head. But a year later, like I knew that all that information like needed to be embedded in my field, and like they would awaken and then they would activate on my journey. And that literally opened everything up to the point I began having channel sessions with all kinds of beings, right? Where like you would pay for a session, like people like would channel for you, and that just like made my my mind like rev up and be like super receptive that I can also do that, right? And then I began having the knowingness that I can channel too, not knowing how I would channel, how it would work. And then I took a class with Stephanie Light when my cat like passed away, and like she talks to animals, and like through that session, like she said, "Hey, look, I teach channeling." I'm like, "Oh my God, I would love to learn how to channel." It took 1 class, and I knew immediately that I can do it, that I'm supposed to do it. We all can do it, really, but my role and path on this earth is to do that. There's no shadow of doubt that it's not. Yeah, and that's how it kind of unfolded.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I hear different people using words like channeling sometimes in different ways. So the way I understand it is, you know, you can either reach out astrally or spiritually and connect with other beings and communicate with them psychically, or if they're in your presence, you can perceive them and have a conversation with them. Channeling is when it's going sort of a step further.
Yeah.
Channeling to me is when a being is coming close enough to somebody that they are able to use your body, your mind, to talk through you rather than just having a conversation with you. Is that your understanding of what channeling is?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I first began channeling, like there was a struggle of like the ego and am I really channeling and am I not really channeling? Am I making this stuff up? Am I crazy? All these things went through my mind. But my key that let me know that I was channeling, which you may not know this, I've always started all of my life, right? So I have a speech impediment, and I use the word like, and then I use the word to help me transition. And like when I sit down, sometimes I feel very like restricted and I stutter more. But I've learned like over the years to kind of like use tricks not to stutter as much. But it's cool. Like I would go like now I know that it's anxiety. I would go every day, my heart completely thumping out of my chest, afraid like to be called on. And of course I would be called on. But as I channel, my speech is completely flowy. I don't stutter. That was my first key, that I'm not in this body, that I'm not speaking. I know I've stuttered for 44 years, for 44 years. And like, that was my key and like my proof that, okay, I'm not stuttering. And look, I tried all kinds of modalities, like not stutter. I just can't help it. It is part of who I am in this earth. But also like when I awakened from this channeling, I would feel this instant, like I'm back to my body, right? That I didn't have. So like those two like were my clue of that I am channeling, that I am becoming consciousness, and we all can do it, guys. This is not, I'm no extra special than any other person. It's just allowing yourself like to be the consciousness energy that you are, and it's almost like and like you're not leaving your body, but you're just expanding your awareness of who you are. I'm beyond this physical skin and bones and blood, and like now I'm like the energy out here, and like when you're out here, you're freer. Hence why my speech is not restricted. But like when I come back to my body, I feel and it's two separate contrasts. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have a number of people in my groups, a number of my friends who we meditate, we connect with different entities, we ask them to come in, we talk to them, we have conversations with them, we ask them questions, and many of us hear responses, many of us can see the beings psychically in our minds. If we wanted to take it to the next step and actually channel these beings, would you have any advice for anybody that's wanting to give that a shot? What do you actually do to move from just a physical backwards and forwards separate remote communication to now we're channeling?
Yeah, the cool thing about the mantis beings that I learned through them is they really take me to abstract concepts, like you mentioned earlier, like things I would never think of in my three-dimensional mind. Like, how do you explain the wind beyond that it's the wind, right? But through that, they really gave me the opening and the clear message that we're all already in contact with beings constantly and always have. There is no point in our inception that we were never in actual contact. And like they said, actually imagination, when we speak in our society about imagination, it's so disconnected and like separate than all that you think you're imagining something up. They said imagination, or like when things come to your mind, you're not making them up. You're actually making contact with those beings, with that intelligent consciousness, because without that connection between you and them, and your willingness to connect with them and their willingness to connect with you, you wouldn't have what's called the imagination. So if you redefine the belief system that I am already speaking to aliens or galactic guides or spirits, I always have, I just wasn't aware because my society has taught me I'm disconnected and all that. And there has to be a 12-step program to be a channeler or whatever the case may be, which is all, I almost said a different word, which is all not true. I'm trying to keep it clean, which is not true. Then you switch yourself from the frequency that I am unlimited, that I am limited being, that is separate to an unlimited being that is integrative and already is connected. All it takes is that belief system that I'm already doing it, I always have done it, and trust the information that comes through. Really trust the feeling, trust the images. I get visions during my channels, I get feelings, I get thoughts that I blurt out, like not knowing what the client would say, but after the fact, when I rewatch, I'm like, oh my God, that was to the T, that was to the point. But it's really trusting that when these things come to you, they are coming to you because you are making contact. And it's more simple than you think. Our society, like they said, that it has become such a, we've been trained that everything is so hard to reach. You got to have all these steps to get here or there. They say no. It's right here and it's right now and it's within your own power. You also have the ego that comes in, and ego is purely designed to do its job, which is very limited. It's like very physical and it's very dense. So there is that kind of like contractual like relationship like with the ego to say, look, I'm not annihilating you, ego. I'm not saying I don't want you to be part of me. You are part of who I am, but also I want to expand beyond who you are, and we'll still co-create together. I'll still play with you, ego, but I also want to play with my conscious self that is more expanded. There's all these little tricks that you can do, and it's instant manifestation, Rupert. Instant. You don't need weeks. You don't need classes. Why? Because you already are the creator. They say you are creating the stage of limitation. And if you can create a stage and a role of limitation, you clearly can create a stage and a role of unlimited potential and unlimited power and unlimited access. And I'm kind of half like consciously channeling because I feel it. I don't normally speak this way, just as an FYI.
So you feel that mantis beings are with you right now?
Yeah. I can snap in and I can channel for you if you want.
That is cool. Maybe a little bit later in the show, I
Sure.
might ask if I can have a conversation with them.
No problem.
Why do you think you have been drawn in particular to mantis beings of all of the different species of beings out there? Why do you have a connection with them?
I mean, look, I don't really know the complete total answer to that. All I know is like what I'm experiencing is so real to the point that my whole life is shifting. Of course, I have real estate, which is like a big business on its own. Now I have this full business of this whole spirituality. I have an event every month that I go to and I channel live. The fact that I've gone that far, it's really telling me that it is part of my path. I cannot escape the mantises, even if I don't want to connect with them. They show up in the weirdest way. They showed up on this lamp at my client's house as a shadow of light. I don't know if I showed you that picture. It's a table lamp, and like I'll try to pull it up quickly. You know, it's a table lamp, and like the light of the sun was shining through, like to the point where there was a clear picture of a praying mantis, just of the mechanism of the light inside, like was a mantis. That's how they show up to me. They come. I mean, like they've shown up on the 12th floor of a building. There's not even a plant in Washington, D.C. on like the 12th floor, on a screen of a unit that I was showing to my client that was for sale. The fact that I arrived like to that unit, like to show that client, and on the screen there was a praying mantis is insane. Like the timing of it, right? There's not a plant for him or like her to eat. Just crazy stuff. They show up on lock boxes. They show up on door handles. And I've seen light ship like of the praying mantises, and I'm happy to show it to you or send it to you like privately. Like that was like during my awakening, like they came through actually. And here, so here's the image. You see the lamp?
Yes.
You see the shadow of like the mechanism of the lamp where the
Okay.
light of like the light bulb, and you see the mantis, the teeth, and the like the antennas.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the mechanism is, it's sort of synchronicity you're talking about. Like, it's not literally that there's a mantis being there, but the shape of the physical structure is
Exactly.
just perfectly
Mantis.
emulating a mantis being.
Totally. And
That's cool.
right, this is not a real mantis, but I have a lot of real mantis like that showed up, right? So
If you don't mind, I will tell you about some of my mantis beings experiences, and I'd be interested to know if you have any comments on the experiences that I've had. I host on a weekly basis in Zoom meetings sessions where we meditate, we astrally project to different beings, we try and connect with them, and we try and communicate with them, and we try and establish deeper relationships with them. And sometimes we specifically reach out to insectoids, and mantis beings will come through to us. But also very often when we're not connecting specifically, well, we're not trying to connect specifically with mantis beings, right there at the start of the meditation, bang, there's suddenly in our vision, there is the head of a mantis being. And the feeling that we get, what we've basically learned from doing this quite a lot, is that sometimes this mantis being shows up to act as a facilitator to whatever contact we want to make with other entities. They're being helpful. They're being supportive. The mantis being shows up and just sits there quietly listening to what we're trying to do, and then supports what we're trying to do. They come across as being quite old, quite wise, not a lot of, I don't know what the term is, not a lot of show. They're just there, they sit back, they observe, and they help us to connect with other entities. Does that fit in with what you're understanding?
you see the smile? I could not stop smiling. Yes, they're called the founders. They're called the architects of the universe, like some may have called them. They are support, and they have given me act. And it's so funny if I can show you like a few channel sessions where like we were just practicing like early on, where like they would tell me, we're allowing you the pathway to connect to other beings, and this is how I really connected with the Taygetans, with like, I mean, there's a lot of others that I have connected with. Yes, because they are they're so expanded, and like their hands are into everything because they are everything. They're there as like the support mechanism, you know, as the watchers, to allow you to expand like further. And I mean, how on earth would I be able like to channel abstract ideas like smoke and black velvet void and the wind and like water and all these things if you weren't on that expanded state to see life and to see existence from a very different lens, a much bigger lens than the very focused one. So whatever you felt, whatever you experienced is absolutely true. And that actually gives me more confidence that the messages I got are real and I didn't crazily like imagining them. So thank you for saying that, because that is absolutely correct.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now you sent me a few images. I'm going to pull one of these images up. This looks to be, it's labeled as a 20 million year old praying mantis embedded in amber. And can you tell us why this 20 million year old praying mantis embedded in amber is of relevance to you?
Yeah. So when I began my connection like with the praying mantises, it was so like visceral, it was so real, I could not escape my connection with them. And I have crystal like skulls, like the human crystal skulls. And like one day I was online, I'm like, I want to look for a praying mantis skull. No one on earth has them. I looked everywhere. And then I got the calling, began creating them. So I'm the first in the world that has praying mantis crystal skulls. And I wanted to activate him. Yes, thank you so much. And I wanted to activate him with like older energy, right? I mean, I know that I'm powerful enough that I can activate him, I can embed codes. But in my mind, I had this imagination, which now that I'm thinking of it, it was never like an imagination, it was a real connection, that I need to find an ancient mantis, right? And look, I don't look for artifact. I didn't know what amber was. I thought amber like was a stone, but it's not a stone. It's actually like the sap of a tree that has been petrified, and it takes millions of years for it like to become like the amber. On my feed somehow, I don't know how this came up, like through an auction house, like a real auction house, like Sotheby's. They were selling stones and like all these artifacts, and this praying mantis like was there. I was like, again, this is how they show up. I was like, what? And I'm like, no way on earth I could win this object. It's going to go for a lot of money. It's not going to happen for me. So I go to Disclosure Fest, my first live event. On that first day, the auction began. Disclosure Fest, it was a Friday, I think, at 9 a.m., and the auction began at 9 a.m. We have a booth, and I'm trying to support myself and kind of like speak. And then I told Nicolette, my partner, I said, hey, look, I have to jump on this auction thing quickly just for 10 minutes because I have to bid. And I bid, and I win.
Wow.
Like, speaking of craziness, but this is how all these objects call to you, right? I mean, it really came to me. So like when I do my praying mantis skulls, I activate them like with that energy, and I actually have it here. This is like the real object. Which you showed it. It was a much nicer picture there.
That's extraordinary to hold in your hand a complete life form that used to be alive 20 million years ago. That is extraordinary.
They say 18 to 30 million years. I said 20 million. Even if it's like 1,000 years, I'm like, that's still old. You know what I mean? But this being, this small, tiny being existed all these millions of years ago. And that moment was, in a sense, captured in this amber. And this amber came to me, and I have chills all over my body. It came to me after all these years. There's only 3 or 4 specimens all over the world that are this good. There's another specimen that was at the Smithsonian that I tried to buy, but the guy doesn't want to sell it. Fine. Where like the praying mantis kind of standing up, and it's the clear. I mean, it's a stunning amber. So crazy stuff like that would happen, and all this adds to my confidence that I'm not crazy, that I know I have a connection with them. Then, I mean, if I didn't, why would I win this thing? There were many other bidders that could have won. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, fantastic. And there's another artifact that that you have in your possession, and that's the head of Anubis on what looks like a very old tablet. Can you give us some explanation for what this is and how you use it?
So look, I have a big smile because I didn't realize it at the time. So at Disclosure Fest, which happened, in Las Vegas this past September or November, I can't remember. On the same day, what I didn't realize is that is I met another vendor that has a connection with his family that's in Mexico that has uncovered on their land all these 8,000-year-old artifacts up to 14,000 years old. And my friend sees that booth and says, "Oh my God, like you have to go to that booth. It's really cool." I said, okay. But I was busy like with clients. And then like towards the end of the day, I head to the booth. I stand in front of the booth and I'm looking, I'm like, at like the artifact. And I say, "No, like this is not the booth." And and then I go past like the booth, like thinking this is not the booth. There was a wall and like the hallway ends. So I head back. As I'm heading back, through the corner of my eye, in this glass case that he had in a sense hidden because he didn't want to sell the stuff in there, I see an ear, what like seemed like an ear, and my eye goes straight to it, and I'm like, I was drawn to it. And it's the same booth that I stopped earlier, like 3 seconds ago. But I needed to miss it the first time in order to see Anubis. And I said, like, what is this thing? He's like, "Oh my God, I'm not going to sell this." I almost like didn't bring it with me. I said, "I don't know what this is, but I have a strong connection. Don't sell it. Like, here's my number. Like, let's talk numbers." And this is how it went. And then I went back to my booth. And then I come back to Washington, D.C. And like a month and a half later, actually like contact him. And I really thought he already sold it because he had a lot of people all over the world that kind of contact him like to buy these artifacts. And he kept it for me. Like he kept his word. Like how crazy is that? When you have, and I have it. So on the same day, like the point is, this ancient artifact came through, right? That's the mantis, that's the amber. And then the Anubis tablet came through.
And what do you do with it?
Well, let me show you like the back, and it's gonna blow your mind, like in a sense, because like, in our history, like we think Anubis is only Egyptian, and in your mind, in like the history books, it's all in Egypt. Like, look at the back of it. What do you see?
Okay, it looks like alien beings.
And Anubis, right? The dog head.
Okay.
Right. So what does that tell you? That the history of like what we think it is, that like Anubis was some fantasy, I guess, deity, in that like perhaps there was no there is connection already. That's been already happening with beings all throughout the lifetime. And you see like this being like whose aspect that's passed away. I'm sorry, like this way.
Okay.
And there's kind of life force. Sorry, I'm kind of like going like here, like there's life force coming out of its body. I'm sorry. Let me look back. Like there's life force coming out of. Oops.
That's okay. Bill has made the screen bigger for us. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, there's a life force coming out of here,
Yeah.
in like his hand, and he's sending it to the sky. So, I mean, I don't know like the full meaning of it yet because I haven't channeled like this tablet, but I knew that I was supposed to have it. And I actually like do have it. And just this past weekend, I was in New York because I contacted this company that's in France that does carbon dating like of stones. And he flew from France to New York, and I took the train to New York, and he took a little piece of this, and I should get the results within a few weeks to see how really old this is.
Wow. So that's wonderful that you're taking a scientific approach. You're actually going to carbon date it to verify its age. I think that's fantastic.
Exactly. Because look, I don't mind relying on people's information. I just want to like stand behind the information and really know if I say like this is 8,000 years old, I want to have proof that it's 8,000 years old, right?
Yeah.
So I can stand behind it. But then again, the fact that an artifact like this would come in my hand, would come in my purview on the same day, two ancient artifacts, mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Never in my life have I researched anything that's old. I had no interest in owning anything old. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that really changes your whole reality. And you're like, and it came to me, right? It's just this weird way how all these tones call you, because the mantis being said, everything that you see like in front of you, even if it's dense and hard, it's conscious intelligence. There's always communication happening. This whole This experience that happened is actual contact. You contacted on like energy level with that being, and you're really like acquainting yourself. You're putting the pieces back to the puzzle, right? And like when I channel like the praying mantis, they really are old beings, very ancient, extremely wise. So I just had a channel session with Mitchell Hedges' skull. Do you know Mitchell Hedges' skull?
No.
It's a very ancient skull. It's like one of the 13 skulls that were found in some Latin American country. So I go like to my friend's house because they were friends with him, and I have an actual session with him, not knowing that they were going to give me channeled messages. I thought I would just sit with the skull and I just get my energies. They confirmed to me everything that I've experienced, like with the mantises. It was a mind-blowing, like channel session, a surprise from the universe that was just so beautiful. I knew that I lived at everything. Like I was the wind. Like my husband hates the wind, absolutely despises the wind. I love it when it's windy. I go outside, I open my arms, I smell the wind. I knew she literally said, like during the channel message, you lived as the wind. You were on the Himalaya overlooking, and I still haven't got like the recording back, so I don't remember all of the like all of those details. But she confirmed a lot of things. She said you lived as everything. You didn't have many lives on Earth, but you lived as these abstract concepts, like things that I didn't need to hear to confirm, because I knew, because I experienced it. But it's nice to hear it from somebody else who didn't know me. I didn't know who they were. I had no connection like with the mantis, with Mitchell Hedges' skull. I was never called to research him, but it just happened through a friend of mine. Like they invited me. Crazy stuff like that just like supports what you're going through. So no doubt in my mind that what I'm going through, the experiences that I'm sharing, the channel session I have with clients, they teach me a lot as I'm teaching them. I mean, like I say I, but it's the mantises. There's a co-creation constantly like between us, always, always, always. And like when I re-listen to them, because I don't remember, like when I'm in the session, it mind blows me. It's like, oh my God. And it just re-strengthened my role that I'm supposed to be here. And really they're in like very simple form, their message is about heart, is about love, is about oneness, that you are everything, that you are never ever disconnected. It's all illusions of these concepts. Illusion that you're not powerful, illusion that you're disconnected, illusion that you're only here, illusion that I'm only Toni Ghazi, illusion that I'm only human. You're everything at once. It's just in this three-dimensional lifetime, the focus is on limitation. The focus is on thinking you are only this. And through that limited focus, they said, you have the opportunity to experience the unlimited through the journey. And there is no destination, like they say. The destination is right here, right now. The destination is the journey. Every decision, every step, every conscious choice you make, every mistake, which doesn't exist in like creation. They harp so much on our words. They said your words are designed to be limited, and they're doing like their job, but the words aren't real in that sense, right? It's they are already like limited in nature. So rely less on word and rely more on the energy essence that is unlimited, to allow you to expand and feel the unlimited and bring it back to the limited body.
Yeah, there's some wise words in there, Tony, and I'd like to pick up on particular the notion of the destination being every moment you're alive. Some people spend their whole lives seeking answers to questions, and they never get those answers. And but every second that we are alive, we have the opportunity to do anything, to really enjoy, make the most out of every single second of our existence. And every second we can choose to make decisions that are helpful to humanity, helpful to the universe, wise or constructive, or destructive, or just passive. And so I encourage my viewers, that this show is called Galactic Wisdom. One piece of wisdom that I hope to maybe ask people to consider is, for the rest of today, what are you going to do to make the world a better place? Because I mean, right now, this is important. You should watch us, because we're trying to give you some useful advice. But when this show finishes, and after you've gone and you've had your afternoon coffee, or you've gone and had your dinner, whatever, what can you do with those 2 or 3 remaining hours of the day to help this planet, to help others? I think that's maybe something to consider. I've put up on the screen here a statement from Sally. She says, so they're friendly and helpful, talking about mantis beings. I gather they're not like praying mantis insects that we know. So they're not going to come at you and grab you and eat your heads.
Do you know why? Somebody else asked that question was when I was, I think, LA Conscious Expo. They asked that specific question, you know, if you're so loving, how come are like the physical praying mantises here, you know, are destroying each other, or the mother eating the head of the whatever, the child, or how, you know, however they do it. And like their response was, everything is a reflection where humanity is. The love for all isn't there yet. They're reflecting back to you the hatred sometimes human have towards each other, right? That like this whole division that we have because we've been fed that we are separate. The moment humanity really reaches the idea of truly loving all with no like discrimination of any kind, that we're all like one being, that will reflect back in the behavior of the animals. This is why like oftentimes like you begin seeing like a lion like sleeping, I don't know, with a bird, or like a cat sleeping with a dog, or like 2 different animals that like normally like, would be predatory like against each other, are like, you know, are becoming like co-creators, you know, of each other, because it's also a sign of like where humanity is heading. Everything is a sign of what we are doing, the choices as humans that we are doing. So that's really why that's occurring.
That is fantastic. In your bio, you talk of beings bringing messages of unconditional love and integration. Unconditional love is a fascinating thing, and I think it's really worth thinking about more carefully. Now, when we're talking about unconditional love, we're not necessarily talking about romantic love. You know, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you're probably going to put a few conditions on that relationship, and quite rightly. But when we talk about unconditional love from a sort of a universal perspective, we're talking about loving every conscious entity, regardless of whatever the differences are between us, regardless of age, gender, nationality, ethnic background, ability, appearance, species, planet of origin. The idea of being able to love everybody unconditionally. Also, if you don't agree with the way that people act. Now, you might see somebody doing something that you think is wrong, but that doesn't mean you can't love them. And loving them doesn't mean you can't help to guide them in ways to stop them doing wrong things. It doesn't mean that if there's a killer walking around shooting people, you can't try and stop that person. But you can still love everybody unconditionally, because they're conscious, they're alive, you can harm them, they can experience well-being or not. And if we really could love everybody unconditionally, without hatred, in spite of any judgments that we make about them, then the world and the universe would be a much, much better place. Do you feel that that beings like the mantis beings and any other beings are trying to give us this sort of message?
100%. That's the whole idea. And look, that's a sensitive subject, right? When we talk about the three-dimensional like world, wars and like killers and all this disempowered like sense of these existences. But like through the menses, I really learned and I embody this new energy in these like new codes that through creation they said there is no judgment, there is no spectrum of good evil, everything is neutral, everything is an experience like to expand. That's it. That's how creation views everything that happens, because through creation's eyes you are super powerful beings, and through your power you are like creating a world of disempowerment. Like think about what that says. Through your infinite power you are able to create the illusion that you are disempowered, right? But it's going to take a huge leap for you to begin seeing everybody as an empowered being. I had this question one time, like like on stage about war, like, oh, like, what do you think of war and like kids dying? Very sensitive subject. They like showed me, like through my eyes, I could feel everyone in the stage of creation of like what war means in our world, right? You have a shooter, like you have a victim. I saw everyone as a strong light being. I didn't see them as like disempowered, and they're just playing out a role. It's a stage of creation. It's simply a costume of being a victim, a costume of being the perpetrator. But it's hard for some people to comprehend because you haven't found and you haven't tapped into what infinite love, unconditional love means, and how each being is empowered, and how each being is a light being. And even what we call death doesn't even exist. It's a transfer of energy. It's a change in form, which means you are always alive, and through the experience or the journey of death, you are still alive. You just change your costume now from physical, like to light. But when you really comprehend those words from less like societal and brain way of thinking about it and seeing it from an expanded view, you get it, and then you empower everybody. And it's like, okay, this is beautiful. I give so much gratitude to all these souls that played these roles. I give so much compassion and unconditional love for them to choose that role in this limited world. And that's where the unconditional love like comes in. That even if you choose to be the perpetrator, that's a tough role to take on as a spirit. But that allows my heart to expand. That allows the world to see a new like interaction, and your heart to really expand with compassion. The same with the victims, etc., etc. And I have chills all over my body now. But it's a hard concept for some people, and it does push buttons. But if you hear that and it's really pushing your buttons, allow it to come through, because you're stepping over the boundary. You're expanding yourself, because our society has really like limited us. Our TVs, our shows, our magazines, our media, our parents, our schools. Oh God, don't talk to me about schools. They're so limited to begin with. It's all designed to keep you within the matrix, that you are disempowered, that God is out there, that like the universe out there. The man said everything is in your heart. Your heart is the portal of all creation. Your heart, but we're not taught to come here. Jesus is here, Mother Mary's here, Buddha's here, aliens here, like Krishna's here. All the beings are here through our creation. And begin, when you asked the question earlier, like to your audience, you said, like, I don't know, like you said, after the show, like do something or begin a new life or something. You said what came through very heavy is begin with self-love. I still struggle with self-love. Begin with self-love. That's where unconditional love really emanates, when you begin loving you. Because then you're emanating on the unconditional aspect and frequency and vibration of what that means. And every decision, every choice, every step you take in life will be emanating through that frequency. And you allow others to understand what that means as you radiate that new like frequency and vibration. This doesn't mean you cannot love others like like that are out that are, sorry, I'm stuttering, that are outside of you, but it begins with you first. But we're not taught to do that. You know what I mean? as young kids. We're not taught to like, you aren't. Why? Because it's keeping you away from the heart, where the portal is. That's where the matrix comes in. Stay away from the hearts, all out there. Go out there. Go love that person. Go love that. And just forget about yourself. Because the moment you have access to your heart, you're divine. You get the channel messages. You feel the power of unconditional love. And then you go out in the world and spread that true unconditional love to the rest. And allow them to have the opportunity to begin loving themselves,
Fantastic. Thank you. Now we're only 2 minutes away from the end of this show. If anybody wants to connect with you, Toni, what's the best website to go to?
Yes, you can go to ToniGhazi.com, ToniGhazi.com. You have my email there. You're welcome to email me. I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, the Antarean-Heart, at the Antarean-Heart. All kinds of events. I have a private retreat coming up that's called the Stargate Crusader, retreat.com, and a lot of other events that I'm going to be in until next February.
Fantastic. And I would like to let people know that if you would like to learn with me about the universe, if you would like to help apply a little bit of galactic wisdom to this planet and the universe, if you would like to help us to elevate humanity to the next level of humanity's evolution, then please join me in my Patreon group at patreon.com/galactic wisdom. This evening, actually in 2 hours from now, we are going to be reaching out to the Galactic Council. We have a relationship with them. We are learning about the beings in the Galactic Council, and every time we go to them, we learn some new fascinating things. So I would like to thank you, Toni, so much for being here. It's been wonderful talking with you. And I'm sure I will see you again in person at some stage in some upcoming convention.
Yes, hopefully next week. I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you, audience. Really appreciate the opportunity, and infinite love to all.
Thank you very much, Toni. And thank you, everybody out there, for watching. Peace, love, and happiness to you all. Goodbye.